Time for the 49ers Rush Podcast.
All right, we've got a weird one today. Number 38, quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo. He says with a question mark, where do you put him? Where do you put him? He's still on the roster, so we got to do an episode. Will he be on the roster? This is going to be kind of a Christmas Carol episode with the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. How do you handle it, right? So we're going to jump back. We're going to go through the path of the journey that is Jimmy Garoppolo. And it's a fun journey. Just got to be honest with you. To where we are right now, maybe not the best. And what the future is, even though there might not be much of one with 49ers, we're going to deal with possible trade scenarios, especially now that Baker's been dealt. Possible backup scenarios, possible release scenarios. And hopefully whenever you walk away from this video, you're going to feel much better about who Jimmy G is and what he's done, and it's going to be a clear picture of what is to come. That's the whole goal here. So we're going to get to see film highlights. Yes, there's a bunch of those. We're going to find out a little bit more about Jimmy that maybe you didn't know, and we'll look into the future. So having said all those things, let's dive in. Number 10, 6'2", 225, beautiful, the jawline of champions. He is aged 30 years old. He's already 30, which quarterback years, not too old, and he sat a lot. So there's a lot more tread left on his tires, even though he's entering into his 9th season. Rolling Meadows, Illinois is where he went to high school and was a 2-star recruit. Now, if we dive into kind of who he was and all the kind of stuff that he did in high school, he was pretty dang good. Threw 16 touchdowns as a senior. He was the Northwest Suburban All-Area Honors Player. Also rushed for 563 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's got a little bit of mobility, and man, why not? Let's jump in. Let's throw some film up. This film breakdown was Jimmy Garoppolo, and again, we're kind of jumping forward and back here, but that's okay. I think this would be beneficial. Led the NFL in third down passing in 2019. This is all of the third and medium plays from all of 2019. So from 3rd and 4 to 3rd and 7. I felt like this is kind of where Jimmy G excelled. So, if you want to catch the entire breakdown, I did a full 3rd and short, 3rd and medium, 3rd and long breakdown. Each one of them was well over 40 minutes over on Patreon. Patreon.com/49ers Rush Podcast, or just Google 49ers space Patreon, and we'll be the first one to pull up. And you can check out every offensive play from the past 2 years, every defensive play past 2 years, all the draft content you could ever want. Now, you go back to kind of what he did in high school, led his team to the Mid-Suburban East League Championship, made it to the playoffs, kind of did a bunch. Then he goes and he majored in management. And if you look at what he was able to accomplish, at Eastern Illinois, okay, so let's back up and go through his freshman year forward. He started 8 games his freshman year. 14 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. The touchdown to interception ratio is never going to be great for Garoppolo, except for really 1 year. His senior year in college was just unbelievable. Sophomore year, started 11 games at quarterback and, threw 20 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Then his junior year, finished 10th in voting for the Walter Payton Award, which is the best FBS is what it used to be called, or, FCS is what it used to be called. Now it's FBS. The best player, in that whole division. He had 31 touchdown passes that year, which was a huge improvement. And then he goes off his senior year. Listen to these numbers. 2013 for Eastern Illinois. Threw for 5,000 yards, 53 touchdown passes, 9 interceptions. It's unreal. 2013 Walter Payton Award winner, FCS National Offensive Player of the Year, Consensus First Team American, Senior Bowl, East-West Shrine Game, Offensive MVP of the East-West Shrine Game, Male Athlete of the Year for the OVC. I mean, good gosh. What he was able to accomplish broke a lot of records. Sean Payton and Tony Romo, they all went to Eastern Illinois, which is interesting because whenever you look at Tony Romo, and what he put up metrics-wise, ran a 4.97 at the combine, 7.043 cone, really good, 30.5-inch vertical. Listen to his athletic profile comparables, okay? C.J. Beathard, Joe Burrow, Tony Romo, JT O'Sullivan. There is a type there. Maybe not the best physical awards, right? Or physical metrics, but he shows out. All those guys definitely had some talent. JT O'Sullivan definitely didn't work out. But guys like Joe Burrow and Tony Romo, you can't quite put your finger on why they're so good. Because, again, Burrow doesn't have a strong arm. Tony Romo didn't have a strong arm. C.J. Beathard does. Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't think anybody would ever claim has a strong arm. But he has got that lightning-quick delivery and is just kind of efficient. That's kind of what he has been. And, I mean, if you're watching these clips on YouTube, I mean, he's efficient, especially in the middle of the field, especially whenever it's, 8 yards or less. That's kind of where he, whatever. Now, he goes and, gets drafted by the Patriots. They signed him to a 4-year, $3.4 million deal. And, it was interesting because he was the backup the whole entire time, right? Behind Tom Brady and all those things. Despite, if you look at, he was drafted number 62 overall in the second round of the 2014 draft. So, again, he's been around for a while. And he made a couple debuts. He came in, and when Tom Brady got suspended, he came in, and that's whenever, he played well, but he had some injuries. And it was just kind of off and on. And eventually Tom Brady basically says, get him out of there. Robert Kraft tells Bill Belichick, get him out of there. And the 49ers, we got lucky there because they, Belichick calls Lynch and says, hey, we want a second. Give us a second. You can have Jimmy. And that's how the trade went down. Now, here, I want to go a little weird here, okay? This was a deep dive I did this morning at about 5 o'clock. The 49ers traded their second-round pick, number 43, it would eventually become number 43, to the Patriots, okay? Now, I was curious, what did the Patriots get for Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Number 43. That seems simple enough. Not so fast. That's not the way Belichick does things. And I think whenever teams make these franchise-changing trajectory trades, they want to mask what they got for him, so you can't say, oh, you got this for him, and that's why this was a good or a bad trade. So just get ready. We're going into the twilight zone here because it gets confusing as hell. Now, the trade was simple. Jimmy Garoppolo for the number 43 pick. Simple, easy. You can measure that, right? Well, okay, that number 43 pick was Kerryon Johnson running back to the Lions, but they traded that pick. They traded number 43 for number 51 and 117. Okay, number 51 was Anthony Miller, wide receiver, and Jordan Whitehead. However, they traded both of those. Get ready. It's going to get real weird. Number 51 was traded for 105, Antonio Callaway, and a future second, which would be McCole Hardman. However, they traded both of those picks as well. Now go back to Jordan Whitehead, number 117. He got traded with pick 63 to move up to pick 56 for Duke Dawson, who the Patriots kept. We'll go through. It's going to be about 6 players. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to turn into 6 players. But stay with it. Now, back to Antonio Callaway, the number 105 pick. He was traded for number 114, Deshaun Hand, and number 178, Christian Sam. Now, the Patriots kept Christian Sam, but traded the 114 pick. That 114 pick was eventually traded for a future third rounder, which would become David Montgomery. However, Patriots traded that one too. David Montgomery at number 205 was traded for pick 87, which became Damian Harris, who they kept. It is their starting running back now. And also number 162. That was Cameron Smith and a future fourth, James Morgan. All right. Well, guess what? They traded number 162. I love this stuff. My notes, I have 5 pages of notes on Jimmy Garoppolo trades and how all these players panned out. I tried to, make it less. We're not done, by the way. There's still more movement. I tried to make it less to make it, somewhat understandable. And hopefully I do a good job because this is a mess. It's like a spider graph conspiracy theory, right? Okay, now pick number 162, which should have been Cameron Smith, was traded with Bobby Evans for number 101, which became Yodny Kajus. They kept him. And number 133, Jared Stidham. They kept him. The 2020 fourth rounder, which would have been James Morgan, was traded with number 129 and number 186 to the Jets for pick 101, which was Dalton Keene. They kept him. So here is the synopsis of the entirety of the Jimmy Garoppolo trade. Jimmy for Christian Sam, Damian Harris, Yodny Kajus, Jared Stidham, and Dalton Keene. Well, let's go through what those players mean. Christian Sam never played it down for the Patriots. He was on the 49ers practice squad for 3 weeks in 2019, but never got called up. Damian Harris, definitely the best player that they acquired. Starting running back for the Patriots still back-to-back years. This would be his third year as the starter. He had 900-plus rushing yards last year with 15 touchdowns. Jared Stidham appeared in 3 games for the Pats, 50% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's on the Raiders now. That was a bust. Duke Dawson never played a snap for the Pats. Dalton Keene appeared in 5 games and has had 3 catches as a tight end. Yodny Kajus played 81 snaps last year on the offensive line, had 2 games, started, but was pulled in both games. So, it's not good. I definitely would argue the 49ers got the better end of this deal, the Jimmy Garoppolo trade. There is no doubt about that. And, let's transfer now. Let's look at what Jimmy's done for the 49ers. We went over kind of what he did before San Francisco, how they got him, and all that kind of stuff. He's started 47 games and played in 63 games. I love Jimmy Garoppolo so much because I see him as the turning point in the 49ers trajectory. You had Chip Kelly, Dennis Erickson, I put Tom Sula, I put all of them in that same era, even though you had the Harbaugh, sandwich in between, the Harbaugh years. This long extended period of just dross. It was bad. Jimmy changed all of that. When he came in those 5 final games in 2017, it was like turning on a light switch. It was the turning point. It was unreal what he was able to accomplish. And you could say he wasn't really that good. You can look, his touchdown interception ratio wasn't great, whatever else. It doesn't matter. They beat 3 out of 5 playoff teams down the stretch and went 5-0. And that was a team that was just terrible. The only thing that changed was Jimmy Garoppolo. He brought something that was refreshing and exciting. However, you come off the offseason with high hopes and excitement, and he tears his ACL. Was he ever the same after that? That's a question that some want to entertain, and I'm okay with that. But even with the torn ACL, he finished, I say finished. We're not sure he's done with the 49ers. We'll talk about that in a second, but probably. He finished 31-14 as a record. 31 wins, 14 losses. Amazing. Absolutely incredible. Is it all on him? No. But, again, remember, the roster didn't change too much during that time. You did get Bosa after that, whatever else. And we just saw all those clips. He led the NFL in third down passing in 2019, which was awesome. Again, I'm about to talk about the other side of the coin with Jimmy Garoppolo. 66 touchdown passes with his time with the 49ers. 38 interceptions. Not great. Touchdown interceptions, never been good. I shouldn't say never. There was that one year in college that was just phenomenal. But if you look at, again, his touchdown interception ratio, right? 66 touchdowns, 38 interceptions. The general rule is you got to be over 2-1 just to be, considered a good quarterback. He doesn't meet that threshold. If you add in, he's had 25 fumbles with the 49ers, and now it's straight up awful. It's almost a 1-to-1, turnover to touchdown ratio. He's not creating when it matters most, and he always put the ball in harm's way. Now, the worst thing about Jimmy, playoff Jimmy, let's be very, very honest. When the pressure moments turned up, it was weird because in the regular season, he would respond relatively well, most times, not always. But in the playoffs, it was very, very bad. 4 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That's his career playoff numbers. Now, he has 4 playoff wins for the 49ers, which is incredible. That's third best all time, tied for third with Colin Kaepernick. Only Steve Young and Joe Montana are better. That's awesome. But whenever you look at the games, it kind of leaves something to be wanting. 2 of those wins in 2019 were on historic rushing performances versus the Vikings and the Packers in 2019. The Vikings game, they rushed 47 times for 186 yards and 2 touchdowns, had almost 40 minutes of possession time. That's not a Jimmy G thing. Like, that's a Kyle Shanahan running game thing. The Packers game was even worse. They threw the ball 8 times. Ran the ball 42 times, 285 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns. That was that historic Raheem Mostert game. Then you go to 2021. They got 2 more playoff wins. He had 0 touchdown passes in those playoff wins. Dallas game, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. He had 67.4 passer rating. They rushed 38 times, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns. They had 3 field goals. Like, sustained some drives, sure, but not good. 0 offensive points. You look at the Packers game, was awful. 0 touchdown passes, 1 interceptions, 4 sacks, had a 57.1 quarterback rating. You had a special teams touchdown and 2 field goals. Defense and special teams won that game. Jimmy did literally nothing. It was awful. Now you can talk about the snowstorm. Cool. Throw that game out. Let's go to the other prime playoff performances. The Super Bowl started off hot. He was better than Patrick Mahomes through 3 quarters. There's no doubt about it. But who are you when the pressure turns up in the playoffs? This is the reason why everybody loves Joe Montana. No turnovers in the playoffs. Whenever it's Joe Cool, right? You have the historic story of, man, down in the Super Bowl in the 4th quarter, they're in the huddle, and you either drive down and score and win, or you lose. He says, hey, is that John Candy over there? That's crazy. Like, right? Joe Cool. It's the exact opposite of that with Jimmy Garoppolo. Looked flustered, struggled, didn't come through when the pressure was up, right? You could talk about the missed Emmanuel Sanders throw. I don't want to put it all in one throw. But I don't think that we lost the game, the Super Bowl, because of Jimmy Garoppolo. I'd put more of it on the defense, giving up all those touchdowns, 21 points in the 4th quarter. That goes on the defense. A lot of play calling was bad, whatever. So, again, let's just say, you know what? We're just not going to count the Super Bowl. There's too much context. It's too furry, whatever else. Okay, the NFC Championship game. Finally threw touchdowns. He went 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. But I would argue it was the worst back-to-back drive that you could ever see for a quarterback in the 4th quarter. It was awful. It was so bad. And it was 100% on Jimmy. You say, oh, well, the pressure and all that stuff. That's fine. You go back, and again, I break this down in detail on Patreon. 6 plays in a row, his first read was to the running back on a leak route. Wasn't looking downfield. Was flustered beyond anything. And I don't even put the interception that, ended the game. I don't even put that on him. That was an incredible Herculean effort where he was just trying to create. But the 6 pass attempts before that were as bad as it gets. So, again, who is Jimmy Garoppolo if his career with the 49ers ended right now? Man, he's positive. I think he's probably a top 6 or 7 quarterback, wherever you want to put it in the history of the 49ers. You've got Joe and Steve. You want to throw in John Brody, right? You want to go old school. Those guys, Y.A. Tittle, they should be there as well. Jeff Garcia, Colin Kaepernick. That's where he should be in the mix, wherever you want to put him. I don't think you're wrong where you want to put him, as long as it's not in probably the top 3 or 4. But he's incredible. And a lot of franchises, man, if he was a Seattle Seahawk, he'd be probably the 1st or 2nd best quarterback they've ever had in their entire whatever. But for the 49ers, we're a storied franchise, so it's a little bit different. Now, what's left? What's going to happen to Jimmy in 2022? Why do we have him number 38? He should get traded. That's the best case scenario, and I still think will happen. With the Baker trade, we'll have to see what happens. As of recording this, the Deshaun Watson news has not come down. That is kind of a big news, because if he gets suspended for the full year or longer, I think that is a possible landing spot for Jimmy Garoppolo, the Cleveland Browns. But if not, no way you trade him to Seattle. Also, that's why I do not believe the 49ers will release Jimmy Garoppolo. 0 chance. Why? Kyle Shanahan's stubborn. 2, if you release him, he's going to walk to your division opponent and sign for free, and you're basically going to be paying him to start for a division rival opponent. Hell no. Kyle Shanahan is not going to release Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't care what anybody else says. I just don't see it. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. So that leaves two possibilities. He gets traded or he's the backup. If he doesn't get traded to the Browns, there's really not many other people out there. Some people are saying Tampa Bay, they don't understand the system. Tampa Bay is a vertical threat, a passing attack. Garoppolo has one of the weakest arms in the NFL. Tom Brady's already forced Jimmy Garoppolo out of one situation. Why would he bring him back? No, it makes zero sense. It doesn't make any sense. And Jimmy's only on a 1-year deal. No, it's people just grasping at straws at that point. If it happened, I'd be happy, but I just don't see it. Maybe an injury happens. I don't want an injury to happen to another quarterback, but you can go back historically, and if you look at the Sam Bradford trade from the Eagles, right, when they drafted Carson Wentz, something like that, I don't want an injury to happen, but it is football, and they do happen. So if somebody's starter goes down, Jimmy's going to be the first call. Obviously, the 49ers are going to have to eat some of that salary, very similar to the Baker deal, and I don't think you're going to get more than a third-round pick currently. Maybe Jimmy and a 6 for a third-round pick, something along those lines. But we have to deal with the fact, no trade partner comes, Jimmy's going to be on this roster. I don't think that's a bad thing. People want to paint the narrative like, oh, it's going to be a hostile locker room, and if Trey struggles, no, man, it's football. These grown men. If Trey struggles, criticism's coming. Will the criticism be greater if Jimmy's on the team? Yes, but these are grown men. You want to be the best? You got to be the best. And having Jimmy Garoppolo as a backup option, not the worst case scenario. You would have the best backup quarterback in the NFL. That's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. So I hope that he gets traded for Jimmy's sake. I want Jimmy to go to a good place. I really, really do. He deserves it. I'm going to pull for Jimmy wherever he goes. But if he cannot be unloaded for a draft pick, you hold him. You hold him. You hold him. Why? People want to say, oh, but the salary cap relief and all that stuff. Yeah, I get that. And that sucks. But here's the deal. You don't have to release Jimmy. Again, not going to release him. But if you want to go down that road until the initial 53-man roster set, whether you release him now or then, you get the same amount of cap relief. Also, once the season starts, you got all the way up to the trade deadline. What if Daniel Jones doesn't pan out? Then you can unload him to the Giants. What if another quarterback doesn't pan out? You can unload him to that team, which is going to happen. Playoff teams, injuries happen throughout the season, so you might have to wait till Halloween till you finally get the end result of a trade. Just because he's not traded during training camp or preseason doesn't mean a trade's not coming. Patience is going to have to win the day, and the 49ers they've already set their trajectory this way. No, he's not going to start over a healthy Trey Lance. It's not going to happen. But again, I implore you guys, look at the time with Jimmy Garoppolo as a positive. It should be. He turned this franchise around and put us in a place where we can win long term. Is he a top 10 quarterback in the NFL? No, I don't think he ever was. But if you don't have a top 10 quarterback, you got to get one. And I think Trey Lance can be that. I really, really do. Very thankful for Jimmy. I wish him the best of luck wherever he goes. And if he's on the 49ers, I'm going to be very happy about that as well. Don't allow the drama and the narratives and all that stuff to creep in. And whenever you find people doing that, don't buy into it. Those are just people causing problems. Remember what Trey Lance said about Jimmy Garoppolo. He's one of my best friends for life. I think that carries weight because Jimmy is such a stand-up dude. Stand-up dude, stand-up locker room. Does he want to be here this year? No, he doesn't. But there's worse things than getting paid $27 million on a team as a backup quarterback. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Want to say thank you to Josh and Anthony, executive producers of this series. Amazing research. They've done a great job, and we're just going to keep counting them down.